Welcome everyone to another episode of where we dig into movies, and this time we're going to be discussing a film that I've been dying to talk about since I even started my channel, and that is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And for those that haven't seen our past videos where we discuss movies, this will be a review at first and then an in-depth discussion, so you'll want to stop watching if you haven't seen the film after that point. And today I am with, of course, William again, and then we have Leah, who has helped me with other short films. She was a producer on my last film, which will be out soon. So, I guess we can just get started by looking at the film in terms of its plot and a little bit of background about the film.
The synopsis essentially follows Jack Nicholson, who plays a character known as McMurphy, and it's quite a troubled character who gets admitted to what we see as a mental institution, and we're essentially then unwound into this cast full of, what society deems as the mentally ill. And we sort of get a bit of a diversity in their characters, and we sort of see their lives in terms of their life inside. We also see the staff's lives, such as Nurse Ratchet, who I'm sure we're all sort of dying to talk about.
Yep, there's a lot to say about that. Yeah. In terms of the film, on its release in 1975, directed by a Czechoslovakian director, Milos Forman, who's done other films such as Amadeus, which is big and award-winning too. And, on release, this film won loads and loads of awards. Jack Nicholson, at the time, had just got off Chinatown and everything, so he had a really good streak of popularity in the 70s in terms of awards. I think that was his fourth Oscar win.
He was nominated for... He
was nominated for Chinatown before that, and then...
He kept being nominated, but this was the first film where he actually won it.
Yeah, I think he's got lots of nominations, And this film took home... It was nominated for 9 Oscars and won 5. And the categories were Best Actor, Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay. So, yeah, it was pretty...
I think we can all agree that well-deserved.
Yeah, in terms of real criticisms in this discussion, I think it's mostly just everyone saying, yes, it's great. It's great, because
praise.
I just can't see many flaws in this film, just because it's so outstanding. And I think the best thing to begin as a brief review of the film is just to kind of look at first reactions to the film, because I've seen it, first time I saw it was 6 years ago. I've seen it countless times since. You've seen it twice?
I've seen it twice. I saw it first with my dad. He sort of showed me it and he said, you've got to watch this film, and it looked kind of old. I wasn't that into it, so I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And then I watched it, and I just remember like falling in love with it, and watching it the second time a few days ago, it just sort of reconfirmed why I love it so much. I mean, the characters in it are so strong.
Definitely.
And so relatable, and just it's an amazing film. I love it.
What about you?
I just love how you mentioned earlier that they're relatable. Does that mean you've gone mad?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like,
No,
maybe not the best word. No, they all have qualities that are relatable.
I wonder what that says to me in Clockwork Orange. Then I must be a fucked up person.
No, you're right. They are actually like very relatable in the sense that they're so human. It's like a real cast coming together, a real ensemble of people who, we were talking about, sort of the prestige that the film has in terms of its reception, but with that growing with time, the film at its core, it's like what it's getting across really stands true in terms of maybe misunderstanding what we consider as crazy, because in this cast and these characters, I don't see so much problematic stuff. I just see people who are more sensitive. You see people in this cast who are just more
like Cheswick.
Yeah, like Cheswick and like Billy, and like these characters who just need some comfort-free life that maybe perhaps they're not getting in the best way through this institution. It talks a lot about the institution to use.
Definitely, we'll definitely get a more in-depth look about the politics of this film and
society,
what it really does stand for. There's a lot in that for people that have read the novel as well, which was a decade before, so it's quite ahead of its time. It was quite daring, in terms of what it says about electric shock therapy, lobotomies, and just generally looking at a mental hospital, because it's one of the first works to really dig into what a mental hospital looks like.
And it all happened,
Yeah.
which I think makes it so shocking probably at the time. Like,
Definitely.
this was actually happening, which is just crazy.
Yeah. And in terms of what you said about the characters being so human, that is definitely true to this film. I think that's one of the reasons people of all ages come to this film
Absolutely.
and they're just so surprised by it because, you're seeing all these characters and they're not necessarily, yes, they are crazy in a way, but this film really challenges what it is, what determines crazy, what is crazy.
Absolutely.
And like you said, it's not, they didn't just go batshit crazy and show all these characters who are absolutely nuts, people defecating everywhere, people being loud and destructive, because they're not like that. You see some of the more extreme cases in the background, but most of all, as we know, all the characters are there voluntarily.
Absolutely,
Most of them are there
yes.
voluntarily, and
They're real people.
Yeah.
and it's more about coping with mental issues internally rather than things that they end up doing physically. It's really about their emotions that are at play, not just acting out all the time.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Especially in regards to, what we as a society, especially sort of nowadays, speaking of which, that we consider to be or deemed crazy. Honestly, not much has changed since the film's release in the 70s, where our attitudes aren't necessarily shifting. But for me, I don't know. I feel like a film like that, if we put like a mass audience went and actually gave it a chance, sat down and really tried to get a grip of what it's trying to tell us, we really find that they're inflicted by society. They're actually driven in there by the norms that really challenge them to be crazy. I mean, Martini, Danny DeVito's character, the young Danny DeVito, who
Very young.
who really sticks out as just such a lovable, fun guy who really just is so
Lovable.
yeah, absolutely. He wouldn't hurt a
Yeah.
fly, and it's sort of heartbreaking to see people like that sort of wind up. But they almost have like a communal sort of they come together.
You feel that rhythm
Yes.
with everything that's
Yeah.
going on, the repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and overall, just the characters really blew me away. The first time I saw this, I can't remember why I watched it. I think I thought when I was 15, I was exploring all these old films and stuff. I came across a thing, and this may be a good comedy or something, and by the end of it,
Yeah.
You're just a wreck, an emotional wreck.
you know that feeling when your legs get weak and when
Yeah.
you see action on screen, like if you see someone and getting into like that feeling you get if you were going to get into a physical fight with someone. I got that in the film in those moments, especially at that end. Like, I'll not say anything yet, spoiler wise, but when it gets to some of those climaxes that we get later on, I was so struck by those performances, and it just blew me away. It completely floored me emotionally. I just couldn't believe what I seen, and I was 15 or so, and I just had to see it again, and
Yeah.
I've seen it 5 times since, and I can't get enough of it. There's just something so compelling about all those characters. They're so well written, and the
Yeah.
performances, there's so much there.
Mhm.
Just things happening in the background, even like with how Chief is in the background from the very beginning of the film. He's kind of invisible, and I'll comment on that later on because it's a lot like that in the book too.
Mhm.
But just from the cinematography to the framing, just the way the characters interact, I just a marvelous film.
I think the reason I love it so much is like you said, is because the characters are just so strong
Yeah.
and so well written and so real. And whenever I was watching the behind the scenes documentary on the film, apparently Milos Forman.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Milos Forman, whatever.
Yeah, Milos Forman said to the scriptwriter, keep it real. Is it natural? Is it real? He just heard those words all the time, and the reason why they're so relatable and we connect with them so much, which makes the ending even worse, is because of that amazing script and storytelling.
Yeah, and it was filmed in an actual mental institution. And
Yeah,
they did a
in
lot of research.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Yes, and they did. I think Nicholson and the rest of the cast, I think they spent maybe a few months working on the characters.
Yeah, rehearsals and actually living. I think their dressing rooms were actually in the cells. So they were living it.
Yeah.
Nicholson came, I think, a week after they started rehearsals. So whenever he came, they were already in character,
Wow.
and they didn't break character all day.
Nicholson.
Apparently, whenever they were filming,
Didn't know
and
Yeah.
that's why the performances are so
Actually,
believable.
I also heard that the role was going to go to Harrison Ford or something, or Kirk Douglas.
Yes.
Worked as well,
Kirk Douglas.
Yeah.
Like, well, he would have been in his 60s at that point, I think.
Yeah,
His
well,
50s.
Nicholson wasn't the first choice.
No, I think
Which
he's-
surprises me because he's just
he fits
the
it so
essence
well.
of it. He's
he
amazing.
really is the film, you know. He's such. That's his. I still think it's maybe his best performance. It's up there
It
for me.
is. And he's the only well-known actor at the time who actually
That
was involved, so he kind of
that is
represents
true.
us, you know, society going into this unknown place.
Yeah,
and I
that's a
think
good
it
point.
works really well
That's a good point.
in the
Yeah.
film, sort of
Yeah.
us going into this unknown, and then we meet all these characters with actors we probably didn't know.
I've never thought of that. Yeah, you're right, because I think in this film there's a lot of like Louise Fletcher, what was a relatively unknown actor,
Yeah.
actress. She's only in a few films before that, and it's the first film I think Danny DeVito and Christopher Lloyd have really been in, and of course Brad Dourif playing.
Brad Dourif.
That's his first, and we'll definitely dig into the Billy Bibbitt character later on
Mhm.
because there's a lot to say about him, and really dig into those characters. So overall, I think, is there anything for those who haven't seen it yet you'd like to say, other than go see it?
Go see it.
You know, well, aside from go see it, I mean, if you give it a chance for what it's worth, it will definitely sort of open your mind to, like you mentioned, you know, a little earlier, you said we go into it together, because even it rings so true that actually Nicholson arrived late in cast, because the story follows that. It's Nicholson entering this realm of the unknown, where, you know, we don't really understand. The audience didn't understand so much about it then. What we see in there really speaks to, you know, political context, in the sense of, you know, how, you know, these sort of the minds of this institution can sort of form these characters together. What is this Nurse Ratched in terms of how she can represent, you know, power and the idea of being put in control, and if it's always the right person being in control, because this film to me especially rings true in that sense, where we've got the misuse of power, or the you know the sort of use of manipulation, and, you know, really playing on the weaknesses of other characters, you know, for her own control. And I you know, there's, although we're going to get into the characterization, maybe you just want to talk about the sort of mother-son complex between, you know, Nurse Ratched and Billy, because that would be
definitely.
I'm sure that'll take up some time in regards to
Yeah.
really, you know, there's a lot of psychology going on there.
The film does have a lot of psychology and politics all tied into one.
Yes.
You know, there's so many different ways to interpret the film of what it means socially, politically, what it really represents. So most of all, I think it's about the human condition. But yeah, so overall, everyone, you know, if you haven't seen the film yet, get out there and do it. And for those that have, continue watching, because there will be spoilers.
Yes.
We're now to dig into the real meat of the film.
Why did you want to marry her?
Well, I was in love with her.
Your mother told me that you never told her about it. Billy? Why didn't you tell her about it?
And then off what you said about the mother-son complex, you know, it's very interesting you said that. It's not something that I've really thought that much about, but there's definitely that relationship there with Billy being so young.
You know, that the first time I seen it, I just remember, you know, thinking how much of a sort of evil mother role Nurse Ratched fits into Billy's life, because even though Billy's mother's mentioned, you know, Nurse Ratched constantly says that, you know, they're good friends, and Nurse Ratched sort of used Billy's mother. Absolutely,
It's awful. Yeah.
It's manipulative, but I seen, you know, Nurse Ratched almost playing, you know, Billy's mother. You know, this really sort of overly, you know, this
Domineering.
Yeah, and you've got that dominance, you've got that blackmail and manipulation, but all in all, you've got, you know, a woman who is clenching on to Billy and using him in terms of, you know, sort of like a son, but also like a, you know, he is almost like her. Sorry, let me do that bit again.
Go ahead.
Billy is almost like Nurse Ratched's patient, in the sense that she is pushing him to different parts where he's uncomfortable. I mean, you know, in terms of when the group meet in their sort of circle and they have their conversations, you know, Nurse
Like
Ratched's always quick, absolutely, kind of like us now. Nurse Ratched's always quick, you know, to point on him and to push him into areas where he's uncomfortable, and you sort of see him squirm. And it's very, you know, it's very unnerving to know that one woman who appears to be, you know, harmless and and appears to be, you know, a great person in regards to society for being a nurse, can you know, cause such damage to, you know, an already troubled young man, and can push him into the area he doesn't want to be in.
And the only time in the film we actually see her sort of breaking that sort of vacant expression is whenever she loses control. Like, she has control over all these patients, and as soon as she that control's gone, she goes nuts. Like, do you know the scene I'm talking about? She just goes mental. And I just think she's a very suppressing character, kind of representing how, you know, society suppresses these people. And the relationship between her and Billy, sometimes I just want to shout at the screen. Like, I hated her because I love Billy so much.
He's such a...
And just seeing what she
sweetheart.
could do to him is just so heartbreaking.
I mean, I don't know who we should talk about first, Nurse Ratched or Billy. You know, there's so much to say about both of them. Because Nurse Ratched is like one of the best film villains we ever have, but she's like an ordinary person. And that's probably the worst villain you can have. You know, you don't think much at first, but her role in the film, no one likes her. When they see the film, everyone hates her by the end of it all. You know, at first it's like, you can see how she's trying to help people, but she's doing it the wrong way, the very wrong way, and again, the way she blackmails him later on in the film.
Using the power.
But it's also one interesting thing about the Nurse Ratched character is there's only one scene, I think, when we see her outside the room, and it's a scene when she's with the other doctors. And I think there might be something to this film trying to comment on roles at the time for women as well, because it's the 70s. It is the 70s. She's the only woman in the room, and she's a nurse with a lot of power, it seems. She seems to have a really strong influence. So I don't know if you saw anything in that.
I didn't actually think about that, but now you mention it, I understand.
Do you mean that in regards to her role, in the sense that, you know, that with the empowering of women in positions in the work, that she's in a
man's role as an American, would say, in the 70s.
And she's the one with all the control over all these sort of men, I guess.
Absolutely, because you've got the male nurses as well, you know, that sit under her. They're almost like her bodyguards.
Oh my goodness, and they're black.
You know.
No. Right, okay, so the Night Watch is black.
Yeah.
And the two bodyguards, the ones that keep recurring, they're also black. There might be something.
I didn't think there was any. I thought that was just sort of...
That might have been something Milos Forman was doing, because it's not a novel that doesn't say they're African American or anything. But,
does it not?
But, you know, that might have something to say
about
your sense of impression of people. Look at this film as, one way I like this film is it represents society, perhaps America specifically. Look at Chief as a Native American. What is America's history? What is America's history with African Americans as well?
Sure. Yeah.
So, and look who's in charge of both of these races in this room, including obviously all the other patients. So there might be something very widely political about the film that it's trying to say, in terms of suppressing everybody.
Yeah, no, I've never thought about that, but that makes sense.
I've only kind of puzzled it together now.
Yeah.
It just hit me as you've seen.
I agree, and as well, because you're mentioning all these, you know, essentially, you know, all these representatives of different races, and then, you know, as history's went on, you've also got the idea of, you know, putting them all in a melting pot. However, you know, they're not a race, but the mentally ill as well is an uncharted land for, you know, the misuse of, and the, you know, just people looking down upon them. You know, you've seen, you know, the past struggle of the likes of the Native Americans, and like you've just mentioned there, you know, the likes of blacks growing up in America. But now you've also got this new, you know, that this in this melting pot, you've also got the mentally ill who've also had that trouble as well. So
an area that really wasn't explored that much until maybe the 60s. You know, people really like the ideas of people having mental illnesses that they really didn't care. They just, you know,
put them off somewhere and just laugh them.
I mean, it was what we see in the film is probably a more gentle version of what there would have been perhaps in the 50s and below that. There's a good film to mention that I only seen a few months ago called Shock Corridor, and I can see some influence in that film on this. And it came out in the 60s. It was a B movie, but it was one of the first really to look at mental illness and looking at how these places function. I feel like obviously One Flew Over does a much more serious look at it.
Yeah.
It's a bit cartoonish at times in Shock
Corridor. It is, yeah. but it's still a topic relevant today, which is why
Yeah.
this film is
Absolutely.
timeless.
It's a topic that really didn't get much exploration in literature or film at this time. Is a real piece of pop culture in this film. It's got it's to a mass audience. It's great to think that they did that. They pushed it at last to try and put it into the consciousness of many people, because it is an area that not many people think about.
Well, why don't you come with us then?
Well, think I don't want to?
Well, so come on then, let's go.
Well, it's not that easy. I'm not ready yet.
In the film, I think one of my favourite characters is definitely Billy. I know you two both really like Billy too.
Yeah.
And I just, anytime he came on screen, I just kind of felt pain for him,
Yeah.
trying to get the words out.
Definitely.
And just the performance by Brad Dourif was amazing. He was relatively unknown, I think,
Mhm.
and he just was so believable as a character, and obviously towards spoilers, but towards the end,
Yeah,
whenever
well, we can talk about the end. If you're here now, you've seen the film.
you've seen the film,
So.
but
Yep.
obviously whenever he commits suicide, it's just, I mean, I cry every time.
That scene is
It's
overwhelming.
awful.
The first time especially the first time you see it, I think that was
Shocking.
it just gave me such a big gut reaction. And whenever that scene comes, whenever Jack strangles Nurse Ratched, there's something like inside of you that really wanted that to happen as well. When that happens, you just watch all this
Yeah,
violence.
which is quite scary, because it
It's
is
a
like you
terrifying
just
moment.
wanna. It is crazy, and
And it's fascinating to see. Gosh, I don't know if we want to dig into this yet, the whole ending, because it's at that moment Jack Nicholson could have just ran away at this point, but
he decides
Yeah.
not
he
to.
was disgusted, because obviously if you're talking you could say a father and son relationship with that now too.
could,
You know, you can probably see that McMurphy grew some sort of sympathy with him. He was the one that set him up to get laid in the end.
Yeah.
After all, and so there's a bit of dynamic there, and at first you think he's a very selfish character. He's self-involved. He's doing things for himself. That's the whole reason he got put into this place. It's all about doing things better to help himself to get forward. And there's a character development for him, and he's a fantastic character in terms of what he's done up to that point. It's such a
Absolutely.
crazy scene. There's so much to say about how he just loses it at that moment.
Yeah, and arguably that's one of the most human moments where
Yeah,
we see sort of, McMurphy does have those traits to begin with, where
Because he's
very
doing it for him,
self-involved.
not himself.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
He is, yes, and it's sort of gut wrenching when you see the window open, you see this idea of freedom, and you're just you're screaming internally, you're saying get out where you can, but you see it's almost like becoming paralyzed. You just sit back and you see him that he's still in there, and you know that his heart's in there, because he's in a way he's really gotten to like or love these characters. He's become a part of that community. He is one of them, and maybe he now looks at the outside world as the ones who's corrupt. Maybe he now sees that the ones in this institution aren't the crazy ones. It's the institution itself, and it's the outside world that's drawn him in there. And maybe he wants, psychologically, maybe he feels safe there, because I don't know about you guys, but I've seen those characters as safe, as trustworthy as they're fun. Absolutely, it's a community.
Yeah, and they all just get on so well together, and it's heartwarming, those moments, where they're playing cards, and it just sort of the natural chemistry between the actors.
It's unbelievable.
Is unbelievable, and you just feel like you're part of it. So that's what makes the last scene, and obviously what happens to Billy, just so devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, probably one for me, like any films I've watched, probably the most tragic, emotionally affecting scene.
He's so young as well, and
Yeah.
that's why it's so
He's
tragic.
so much ahead of him, and he seems to almost be getting confident and overcoming maybe some of his insecurities, and then just Nurse Ratched comes in and just ruins everything. And I just hate her.
Billy, what worries me is how your mother's going to take this.
Well, you don't have to tell her, Miss Ratched.
I don't have to tell her. Your mother and I are old friends, you know that.
That whole ending really is the climax of the relationship. That's whenever Billy gets blackmailed, and it's the guilt that obviously that's
Absolutely.
putting him in that guilty position. That
Guilt's the word.
would have led, especially in his condition, you know.
And just the image of him, like the prolonged dragging of him, you know, away, and him
Yeah.
screaming, and just the way that same shot keeps for a good, like, 20 seconds.
Yeah,
Just,
and it
you
feels
have
longer.
to watch him, and it's awful. Like, it's awful.
Yeah, even thinking about it now.
Yeah, I get annoyed,
I'm getting overwhelmed by it.
yeah, I get angry and annoyed, and I just,
I think one of the most compelling things with Brad Dourif's performance is the stuttering and how realistic it is.
yeah.
You know, and I think that's part of the reason you have so much sympathy for him, because he really is struggling to get the words out.
Yeah. And it you know, speaking of how fragile and stuff he is, he really gets that across in his
Really
performance too, doesn't he? And he really sort of allows you to develop a real liking to him, because he can be quite relatable in times, in the sense that he's only, you know, he's just a young man, and he's relatable to every other young man, and that, you know, Ollie currently he's interested in girls, for example.
Yeah.
And we actually learned a bit about his backstory, and he had an incident where he had essentially, I believe, you know, barely known this girl, but asked her to marry him, and they brought her flowers and things. And you know, that sort of speaks to him as well, in the sense that he is a loving guy, and I sort of, the main, you know, worry I had with Billy's character is we keep hearing about his mother in the background, who, you know, we never see. However, we do see the permanent effects that his life has brought him to this point, where we now know that he's getting better in this circle, in this community, through the likes of McMurphy, who sort of take him under his wing. And it's just lovely. I love that scene when they take out the boat, and you just
Yeah, that
see
seems so wonderful.
they're really empowered, aren't they? They're really
Yeah.
a part of society.
That's like the only time in the film that we really go outside.
Go outside
Yeah.
the confinement.
And being out
I
there
think it
in the
works.
ocean, you know, somewhere where no one
Ultimate
else
freedom.
can get to you, and it really is a moment when they have total freedom. They just
Yes.
get out there, and it's such a great scene. They're all on the boat, and that scene whenever Jack Nicholson takes the girl into the inside, and everyone crowds around like a bunch of schoolboys.
I
You
know.
know.
And it gives us as audience a little taste of that freedom. It's
Yeah.
almost like
Yeah.
taunting us.
Because even you're trapped in the whole film, everything's confined, and then you have this release.
Yeah.
I know.
Things that we sort of take for granted, I guess, that those characters really, you seem just the
Yeah, for them, that's
the centre of happiness.
once a year type of
Yeah.
ordeal.
Yeah. Never again, they weren't allowed out. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they were locked in for good. Yeah.
Other characters then, ones that stuck out for me, I guess we can all talk about Chief. But
Yeah.
personal favourites then, for me, Cheswick really stuck out.
I wrote down Cheswick.
I
as
love
well.
Cheswick. You know,
Love Cheswick.
The acting, the name of the actor is
Stanley last
Stanley, or Sydney? Sydney Lassick?
Sydney.
Sydney.
Sorry,
Sydney
I
Lassick.
read that wrong. It
Yeah,
is
I
right.
think mine's, my writing's bad, so. If it's I don't know if you're reading my page or your own.
No, my own.
Oh.
No, it's just bad.
But his performance was one of the really, the realistic performances. You know, when he wants his cigarettes.
So committed.
There's so much commitment.
Committed to it.
You know.
It makes a kind of a cartoonish character. Just
It is.
you
He's
believe
funny.
it.
He's
It's
funny.
hilarious.
He's really funny, but then in that scene, whenever he finally gets dragged into the room, where he then gets the EST, you know, it's devastating. You feel sorry for him so much. He is the comical,
Yeah.
mentally insane character in the film, but at the same time it's very tragic, especially in that scene when he wants his cigarettes. For me, that was
Yeah.
there's so much emotion in that. Like,
He was
that
finally
scene.
standing up for himself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
totally.
Standing up against
Yeah,
the
and I see-
Ratchet.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
McMurphy he is the ultimate symbol of freedom, because he comes in.
He's a
and that's-
rebel of sorts.
He's a rebel.
Yeah.
He really is a rebel, and that's when everyone starts to, you know, because they literally outright say, you know, McMurphy said this. I think he's right.
Mm.
There's a moment that someone says that, something similar to that.
He's a rebel with a cause, because
Rebel with
Yeah.
a
he
cause.
is always trying to get out, if you think
He
about
is.
it. And one of my favorite scenes has to be the baseball scene, and it's when they essentially they can't have their way, and for no fault alone, of course they got the vote, but Nurse Ratched closed it for the end. They can't get their way, and they realize that sometimes you have to sort of confide in each other, and they actually use their imagination, which you would associate with places like that where you're confined to freedom. You would use your imagination is what you would assume, but they do it in such a special way where they're all sharing this imaginative experience, and it's so surreal to actually see that the TV's off in the corner, and you've got McMurphy swinging the baseball, the imaginary
it's
baseball
a communal
bat.
moment.
Absolutely, and it's
a
messed up
that.
moment in the sense that it's so surreal, and I love that scene. Very much.
That was a really good scene, sort of heartwarming, and it just made you love the characters even more.
Wanna go?
Thank you. Juicy fruit.
Boy, you sly son of a bitch, Chief.
Is there any other characters before we dig into the giant of the film, Chief?
I have to give Martini a mention. Just
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah,
special.
yeah.
But he's lovely.
Yeah.
A man of few words, but
Yeah.
still
I better die.
so lovable.
Yeah. No, Chief. I just want to say this: within the novel, we're gonna judge this mainly on what we see in the film, because that's what's important in the film. Because Chief in the book, it's all from his perspective. The book is narrated from the very beginning. He introduces the story and then says about the presence of McMurphy coming in. And whenever I watched it, changed. When I read the book, I'd seen the film twice before reading the book. When I read the book and watched the film, it changed the way I looked at how Chief is in the background all the time, because he's like omnipresent all the time.
Yeah.
He sees everything and says nothing, and you don't really notice his character in the first scenes that you see him in the background sweeping away. He's invisible and he's lost his voice. And we're talking about oppression again. He is the ultimate symbol of oppression, and there's definitely a deliberate choice to put a Native American in there.
Yeah.
A Native American who's been completely silenced. And I think towards the end of the film, he talks about his own father.
He does indeed,
You know?
yeah. And that he's such an intelligent character. He's
He is.
arguably the most intelligent, and there was such a real harsh sort of way he described.
There's a lot of
that
emotion in him
complex,
too.
Yeah, he said that his father he describes his father as an alcoholic, but every time his father lifted up to drink the bottle's drunk from him.
Yeah.
And that was so
That moment
so
was
gripping.
so sad.
Yeah. But it really shows that he was so introverted, but so intelligent that he was really showing what it's like to keep all that within, to keep that sadness, that melancholy inside him, and that sort of unleashed in his escape in the end, I believe, because maybe he's seen that relationship with McMurphy in the film alone.
Yeah.
Maybe that it was so heart-wrenching to see when McMurphy was brought in at the end, essentially brain dead and paralyzed, that the take for Chief to take his life.
We'll definitely talk about that soon.
Yeah, that was,
But Chief is just such a fascinating character. He's so, you don't really, what was your first reaction when you first heard him speak? What would you, first, because it is such a surprise when you first hear him speak.
What was the first thing he said?
The first thing, he says
it's pretty much thank you to the juicy fruit.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. I didn't know if he said juicy fruit or
He says
thank you, and then sort of Jack Nicholson goes like,
what?
what?
What was your first reaction? If you remember what it was like for you when you first seen that?
I do remember, and it's funny you mention his reaction, because for a moment I looked at it like McMurphy went mad. I thought that Chief was a permanent mute. I didn't think he could talk. So I thought we actually went into some sort of crazy moment where McMurphy was imagining.
Really?
Talking.
I did not think of that at all.
No, I didn't think of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, honestly, in
Yeah.
those few seconds, I thought, especially when he prompts him again, McMurphy then withdraws with the second juicy fruit. I thought, okay, he surely can't speak this time. You know, I just thought it was a moment where he went crazy because
I
he's
can
just
see
about
why
to
you
be
thought that now,
lobotomized.
yeah.
However, you know, when you do start to realize, you think, wow, this is a real crafty guy. This is a crafty bastard. So just sitting there, you know, he enjoys juicy fruit, and but a phenomenal character. And I don't know, Lee, do you have any first reactions to that?
Just obviously his size whenever we see him on screen,
Yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
what.
He's a mountain.
But yeah, he's sort of just silent and always there and always listening. So you kind of figure out that he probably knows the most about what's going on.
Absolutely.
Like he knows.
Yeah, he knows the score.
He knows the score.
Yeah.
And whenever he starts speaking, and obviously there's like a really nice relationship
There
between
is.
him
It feels like
and
we've known each other
McMurphy.
so much longer. The
Yeah.
chemistry.
It's unexpected because obviously it's not like they're having, you know, deep conversations about life. Like
They say very little actually, but
yes. But
I-
McMurphy, it like begins with him. I think he sort of wants Chief's friendship because Chief physically
yeah.
could break him out, but
Yeah,
then as
totally.
the movie progresses, you kind of see that it is sort of. I'm not sure what sort of relationship. It's not like like father son. It's just sort of like this
it's
nice.
some strange bond. They're two.
Yes, yeah.
They are two
They're
very
related,
different people,
yeah.
but obviously Chief. You know, you'll see that in some of the scenes in the background. You know, when he smiles whenever McMurphy plays a joke.
Yeah.
On Nurse Ratched, that's pretending he comes in like absolutely brain dead, which ends up actually happening, but for real this time.
It's hinted at throughout it though, isn't it? He's always behind it.
Yeah.
The basketball scene where
The basketball scene is so funny.
He begins to play for real and the smile of just success that he has.
Put it in the basket.
It's that scene with Cheswick. Like,
Yeah.
what did you throw the ball over there for? There's no one there.
Yeah. But
That whole scene's great.
Yeah. But when Chief, sort of he begins to come out of his shell, at least to us as an audience, because then, past, by McMurphy initiating him into the sort of game, he's an isolated, he's an outsider of the group, but McMurphy brings him in, and throughout that, as we sort of see more games done sort of playing basketball, we then get to see Chief, for real playing, and he goes from end to end, stopping
and he's
the guards.
so satisfied with himself.
Yes.
He's got that little tiny smirk.
That's what you
As
see.
he walks that big stride.
That's when you know, right, he's on to something. He's definitely, there's something up there. He's not a mute. There is something going on there.
Chief, I can't take it no more. I gotta get out of here.
I can't. I just can't.
It's easier than you think, Chief.
For you, maybe. You're a lot bigger than me.
Why, Chief, you're about as big as a goddamn tree trunk.
Well, I think there's a lot to say, but we're down for time due to this camera about to die, and I do not have a battery with me. Apologies. So we'll really wrap it up and talk about what we see in the ending and what it really represents. So I want to hear your takes on it before I say anything.
Well, I think the imagery obviously is really powerful. Obviously, it starts with images of nature and that finishes with images of nature, and the Chief sort of running away just sort of embodies freedom, and it gives a nice ending to like a really sad film. And there was one line that really stood out for me whenever he says "let's go" before he obviously kills McMurphy, and that is like a really powerful line, I think, because it's kind of saying he's taking almost McMurphy with him.
His soul, his spirit.
Yeah, his soul,
will
and
live
then
on.
just the music and just him
Oh, the
running
music.
away. It's a nice ending
It
to
is.
a really sad and depressing.
What did the first time you saw that? What did you think of the mercy killing, as you would call it?
Like, I thought it would be so controversial, but among audiences alone,
It was
because
challenging to begin
Yes,
with.
I
You're
mean-
like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
But you understand it.
I understand. I didn't feel sad about it.
You don't feel sad about it because
No.
you feel like he's gone now. He's not.
He's
not
not the
over
same
there.
character. We've
Yeah.
lost the character.
it's not like he could take McMurphy, throw him over his shoulder, and then run to Canada like they planned, because he's not
He's
there. And he
vegetable.
realizes that he's like the rest of people who now that were lingering in the background. He had to put him out of his misery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it was
Because,
necessary.
you know, like, I mean, there's a lot you can say about people who end up in a vegetated state. The fact that it even gets called a vegetated state, and it makes me wonder why people allow other people to stay alive in, you know, in that condition. And it's probably because of the physical being of a person, you know. You physically see that person
It's a
there.
shell of them, but
And
the love
it's a
of
shell,
ones.
but it is, that's all it is, it's a
Yeah.
shell. And that's why I think this film's way ahead of itself, you know. At the time it came out, no one else would have done that. It was something so shocking and controversial, as you said. And I think when he is killed, it really is a mercy killing. You know, he's gone now. Everything that was McMurphy is no longer there. So he's going to take the spirit and idea of McMurphy with him.
But it's, yeah.
Because he's the end of the film, Chief, and he gets inspired by it. So it's almost like McMurphy's soul is passed on.
Yes.
Exactly, it's freedom too, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's freedom because we seen you know, the idea of almost killing is very relevant, and it's so relevant towards the end, especially after Billy's death. It just looms because we now know that there only is that consequence of passing away. There's two types of freedom that these characters. Yes, it's bittersweet in the sense of the ending because we have you know, it comes at a loss. This freedom that definitely comes at a loss, and it also comes, you know, if you really think about where we leave these characters, you know, you sort of Chief maybe possibly going to Canada, and then you've also got the rest of those characters left behind.
The reactions, yeah.
Yeah, the reactions.
Christopher Lloyd's
yeah,
reaction
of
sticks
course,
out for me. Christopher Lloyd's one
Yeah.
sticks out for me the most.
Yeah, I think in the behind the scenes thing they weren't going to include that, and
Oh.
he asked for an extra day of filming,
Yeah.
and I think if that hadn't have been in there, it wouldn't have been a night as final and
Yeah.
ending. And
Yeah,
I think it worked so well.
it's such a sad but, because he's inspiring kind of ending. You know, you see all those characters and they're just like, you did it. It was a victory. It was a victory for
Yeah.
them after they have,
Absolutely.
you know, they have fallen. And I feel like the spirit of McMurphy is going to be with them after the film's over.
Yeah.
And what do you think of that whole end shot? It's just that long take of him running over the hill. There's something so beautiful about that. He's running into the world, the nature,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
you could almost say that's him running back in
To
the world that was
belongs
robbed.
to him.
What
Yes.
belongs, because the
Probably
land, it's the
native.
land that
Yeah.
his ancestors, his history, it belongs to
Yes,
him.
Yeah.
So that's almost like he has escaped this. We're talking again
Society.
about the oppression that's in this space. He's literally physically locked in this space, and he gets released into it, and now he can be in his environment again.
Isn't it also interesting that he needed McMurphy for that last push? Because,
Yeah.
you know, McMurphy tried to get him to leave earlier, and Chief says he's not ready yet. So Chief essentially, you know, waited until he was ready, and when he was ready, it was almost kind of too late to save McMurphy, but
Yeah.
he did realise an inner freedom, and I love that image you know you brought up there where he is running back into the land that was once belong to the Native Americans, and then the soundtrack reinforces that. The very whimsical wind,
when that music hits in,
really reinforces the freedom and also the righteousness of returning to what was once his, as freedom, the land, and the escape of that oppression that you mentioned.
That ending hits me so hard. I mean, even when I watched it with you and Andy last week, I couldn't speak after it for a while. It just hits me so hard. It's just such a beautiful ending.
It's beautiful, and we're so used to seeing the bars of confinement, the imagery, like we as an audience are trapped in. It's the same location mostly, apart from the fishing trip. So whenever it ends just out in the open, it's a nice ending. I felt a sense of ease, and I was happy.
It's satisfaction.
Yeah, satisfaction, exactly.
Yeah, I think the music just really fitted that film. There isn't very much music, but the music's in the ending. It fits it's so unique. We think it might have been kind of Native American instruments or something. I'm not really sure. I need to look that one up.
It does sound, at least the composition itself definitely is inspired of that. And we're speaking about the sort of the end and what it felt. But as an entire film, what I guess impact did it leave, you think, on your life after seeing it? Even if it's repeated amount of times.
Yeah, that's good. I think we should definitely say that to wrap up. Just final thoughts on what the film represents and what you see in it. I love the political readings of it and how it's commenting on America and society in general. It's got ideas of totalitarianism. I've seen a really good essay. Apologies now for this degradation of quality. As I warned you all, the camera battery died, but luckily we have good audio still. We still have good audio. At least we have that. But we're just going to say stuff about final thoughts of the film and the impact and readings of the film. And for me, with all the political ideas and stuff, I love the political readings of the film, but mostly for me, it really represents the human condition. The mental hospital literally is the human mind, and society as well, but mostly it is about the human mind, and it encompasses all those different emotions. Well, wait, did you say
absolutely agreed, yeah. I mean, especially when talking about the human condition and the human mind, it really does question, what is considered by society's standards of who is going crazy and who's, these people are sort of self-inflicted in their own ways, where they do feel that there's something wrong, where they're checking themselves in, and that to me stands as sort of a testament to the sort of society and the views that really consider mental illness to be somewhat of a cancer or somewhat of a real problem, and really it's just these people are different. These people shouldn't be seen as problematic. They should be considered as different, and that's really what it boils down to. And these, what I've learned, I guess, from the film is if you could put those characters into society, would they be functioning? Maybe in some degree, yes, but would they be harmful? Those characters, in my experience in watching it, no, they wouldn't. And I guess that speaks again to the institutionalized sort of theme that continues throughout it, and how that really changes them. And it's not always for the better. And I think that rings true to real life, of course, as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think what I took from the film is just to maybe be more kind towards people. I mean, at the end of the day, people are people. These characters who we connect with, they might appear to be flawed, but just be kind and have an open mind, and just everyone's a person.
Yeah.
Really, there shouldn't be any sort of hate or prejudice, and that's kind of what I took away from it, and I know it'll stay with me forever, probably.
Definitely, I feel the same. I feel on my first viewing there was just something so strongly human about it that it just hit me straight away what this film was about. I think it really is, like you say, just about being kinder to other people, and I think it's saying we should treat the issue of mental illness better as well. People. It kind of taps into being aware of people's emotions, whether they're mentally ill or not. About being more sensitive towards how people feel, because you never really know how much someone's hurting.
Yes. Completely.
And you can see that in how you don't expect Chief to speak. You don't know how much he's hurting, how much he feels. You think he's deaf and dumb for the whole film. And then all of a sudden. So it just goes to show, like, he's fooled everybody. As McMurphy says, you fooled them all. And he even fooled that includes the audience when he says that, and it just shows that you really don't know how much someone's feeling.
Absolutely.
And I mean, even whenever Billy Bobbitt kills himself, you still didn't think he was hurting that much. You didn't think it got to that point of suicide, and that's why everyone has to be sensitive towards things, because Nurse Ratched obviously wasn't sensitive enough. You know?
Yeah.
Exactly. You know.
You're right, and it's so hard to capture what happens in the mind. It's so hard to get that across. But if one film really does do that so well, it's One Flew Over. And you know, you could say it again and again that what those characters are going through, you know, and what they've been through, we don't know as an audience. But by the end of it, we can really just admire their strength. We can admire, you know, we can really like them. We can just see them as humans, like you mentioned earlier. You know, treat everyone better, and it has a real sort of moral stance at the end. You know, where be more human, be more friendly, and be more open. Yeah. Feel more.
Yeah, it's like the great dictator speech. You know, people think too much and feel too little.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the film, when you see Nurse Ratched in the neck brace, you got away with it. Lucky, you feel. That scene you see her. I feel like for some reason in that scene when she does speak through the microphone, I think that's maybe when she starts to be a little bit kinder, but you know she's still going to be a monstrosity.
I mean, it cut from like Billy's death straight to the new. It was almost euphoric. It cut to them like resuming life.
Back into the repetition.
Yes. But that shows her, you know, some people never change. You know, some minds can never be.
I got that idea of the repetition also. I know we didn't mention that much, but we were talking about how they're communal, and you get this feeling of repetition and daily routine through the music that's played. You know, the record player, like a record, their lives are going round and round every day. Has to be a certain set way, and like when we come back, it could be a few weeks. I think it's probably like a month or two that he's been gone. Well, no, it would probably be a few weeks since she's still in the neck brace.
Yes.
And McMurphy comes back, and it's in that repetition again. It's in that rhythm that was lost when McMurphy left. But then when McMurphy comes back, things go off the scales again, because with the whole thing, the breaking out. That scene is so great when Chief picks that up. Because Chief, physically, I just keep adding to my thoughts on Chief. Because physically, he's a larger than life character.
Yeah.
He really is. He's so.
He doesn't need a lot of dialogue to convey that. He's just.
The acting is so much in his eyes, I think.
Yeah.
There's so much that you can read just in his eyes. What a brilliant. I would almost say underrated actor. He's a very unknown kind of actor. It's not like when you think of that actor, Will Thompson.
Will Thompson or Will.
Will.
To double check his name.
Will.
Did he go on to
He's an
act in other
orchestra.
things? Because I didn't find.
Sampson. It's Will Sampson. I didn't have Will Sampson. You know, he did some roles with Clint Eastwood and stuff as Native American characters and stuff like that. That's as far as I know. But he's not an actor many people think of today at all.
He was made for the role, really, if you think about it.
Yes.
He really is a testament to strength, the human strength. You know.
He's so damn big.
Couldn't
You know,
be
and you especially notice that when he's next to Danny DeVito, you're just like, whoa. The height difference is phenomenal, you know. But overall, final thoughts on the film, I think we've talked enough about it.
Yeah.
I still feel like there's so much to say, a stream of consciousness wise, things just keep popping into my head to add to this film. It's just so remarkable.
And I think it'll be a classic for years to come.
Definitely, because
generations after us will enjoy it.
Because it's not dated.
It's not dated at all.
No.
It's timeless.
It is timeless.
There's nothing in the film that makes you think, oh, they came out in that time. You know, there's no pop culture references. There's no, you barely see anything out in the streets. So it's really it's a human film, and the human spirits will never die. So it's a film
They'll live
about
forever.
You know, human emotion. So when you make films like that, it's bound to exist
timeless.
forever.
Transcends time.
Because emotion doesn't change that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you have such a strong and powerful message that it needs to exist forever. It needs to transcend time because people need to learn from it. It's educational.
Yeah, this transcendent.
This is a film you can show to people, and they're going to take something positive from it.
Definitely.
They're going to think differently. You know, this is the power to change people's minds who may be thinking differently to, you know, something that is helpful, something that you know, is beautiful and kind, and that's what, you know, this film represents. It's
Well, does anyone want to add anything? Any final messages to the viewers?
I would just say, if you haven't watched it, which by this point you probably have watched it, or we spoiled
Yeah.
the entire film for you. But if you haven't watched it, I would highly encourage it. It's one of my favourite films. It's really educated my
Go see
own
it again.
filmmaking. Yeah, go watch it again. Go watch it like 5 million times.
Yeah,
it's
it's a
just
great movie.
a great movie.
It
And
really is. Absolute
um,
masterpiece.
one of my favourites.
And, you know, many people out there who know me, they know my profile picture has been the same for like 2.5 years. It's the picture of Jack Nicholson looking up, and I don't know if I'll ever change it because I'll not get a better one. But yeah, that just shows how much this film's impacted me. It really is one of those films that's in my top 5, and yet it's not a film that I say is immaculately shot or has excellent use. It does have excellent use of composition and stuff at times, especially those scenes when everyone's talking, you know, just the way McMurphy's in the centre and he's surrounded by everyone. Things like that, the way it's shot is really great. But in terms of those filmic things, you know, you think of Kubrick style in this way, Wes Anderson style in this way. You know, this film is really all about his performances, not so much how it's shot and everything.
absolutely. Yeah.
So overall, it's a masterpiece, undisputed masterpiece. Well, I think that just about covers it, everyone. Thanks for stopping by on this first video in the 70s marathon, and I hope you enjoyed the next video that I do. I think it might be the Taxi Driver dissection, but I'll see what I end up uploading. This was recorded like 2 weeks ago from the time you're going to see it. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the marathon and my absolute praise to the 70s, the most glorious period of film. And that's it, everyone. Anyone want to say anything? No?
Thanks for having me on your channel.
Anytime. Well, that's it, everyone. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.
Juicy fruit.
Juicy fruit.